Good morning. We're so excited to be here today. I'm so excited to be here today with Mandy Sinnard. This is the Rising Up Rare podcast, and I'm your host, Allie Ladd. And we're here just to give you rare stories, whatever rare means for you. Today is a rare disease month, and we're all about creating hope and inspiring action, and also raising awareness for MPS1. Here with me today, Mandy Sinnard, and we're so excited to share her journey and her little girl, Charlie, who we adore and followed a little bit through transplant. I really don't remember if she was in transplant with Kennedy or Lincoln. I should know that. I think Lincoln. But we're here to hear about Mandy. So thank you so much, Mandy, for being here. And I'm going to let you take the floor and kind of introduce yourself, and you can lead into your journey, or if you just want to introduce you and Charlie, and we'll go from there.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to share our story and just to bring awareness for MPS1. I just know there's a cure out there, and thank you for letting me be a part of this. Charlie is 5 years old now. She was diagnosed through the newborn screening in Tennessee. So she was born in 2019, and I think that MPS was implemented into the newborn screening in 2017. So we were close. I'm just so thankful for that because Charlie was able to receive ERT. I believe her first one was at 28. I think it was at 30 days old.
Oh.
Yes, because she received her central line at 28 days old, and I think that 2 days later was our first ERT. So she received a bone marrow transplant. She was born January 13th of 2019. She received a bone marrow transplant. May 24th of 2014, our first donor fell through. So we were a little bit behind schedule. But over the course of about a year and a half, her transplant was her engraftment of the transplant, the donor cells was dropping at a 2 to 4% rate monthly. So I believe we got down to 32 or 34% donor cells. And I had to fight really hard for a second transplant because there's no data to back up whether 100% engraftment makes a difference as opposed to 32%. It's kind of strange that it was 32% because I think that 32% was her actual likelihood of surviving a second transplant. But I just fought for it for a long time and for several months, and then considered doing gene therapy that was still excuse me, in the first phase. So it was in the safety phase. So Dr. Davies was like, no, we're not going to do that. Just bring her here, Mandy, and we'll transplant her again. So she received a cord blood transplant because it was less of a risk of graft versus host disease if you use a cord. So we used a cord January 19th, 2021, but that cord was no good. It actually came out mostly in her urine. Isn't that strange? So she received another cord on the 21st. So that was just a couple of days later, and that cord took. So I guess you could say she's technically had 3.
So this that you're talking about now was during the second transplant?
Yes. I don't think I spoke so much about it when that happened. I think I literally lost my mind. I was already so terrified, and to know the first cord didn't take. By the time the second, we had to do the second one, I don't even remember posting a whole lot about that. I think that I was absolutely terrified. So I don't even think
at this point, this is where you had moved back to Tennessee and then moved back to Ohio.
Okay, so I moved to Ohio. So we traveled with Tennessee Medicaid.
Okay. For the people listening, let me go back and recap just a few things, or just tell them a little bit. So MPS1 Hurler Syndrome, for those that don't know, is a rare genetic lysosomal storage disorder. And both I and Mandy have kids with MPS1 Hurler Syndrome. It is rare. It is progressive. It is terminal. They are missing an enzyme to break down a complex sugar molecule. So in layman's terms for us, we say they are missing the dump truck to haul the trash. So that trash is just building up in their body and attacking everything, their brain, their organs, their tissues, all the things. So nothing's left untouched. The best treatment option is a bone marrow transplant. And that is what Mandy decided to do. They also have enzyme replacement therapy. And you start enzyme replacement therapy as soon as you get diagnosis. We do. That is protocol for Cincinnati Children's. And then as soon as you find a match and the child is ready, you go on to a bone marrow transplant. So we're kind of talking about the bone marrow transplant at this point. But I did want to back up because I know some of Mandy's story. Mandy is from Tennessee. Charlie was diagnosed on Tennessee newborn screening. And Mandy decided to go to Cincinnati Children's for her bone marrow transplant. So we will start there. Why did you get your heart set on? How did you find Cincinnati Children's? Why did that become your place you had to go?
So thankfully, we do have a very close-knit community of MPS1 parents on Facebook. And there was one local to me in Chattanooga, just literally like 20 minutes down the road, who reached out to me immediately. And I believe that my aunt found her. She found some news articles and she reached out to her, who then reached out to me. And she told me the basics of what I needed to know, that there are 3 main hospitals in the U.S. that know about Hurler syndrome. It's the same thing as MPS1. It's formerly and most commonly known as Hurler syndrome, but it's been renamed as MPS1. She said Ohio and Minnesota and North Carolina. And I thought, well, Ohio's closer. So I went ahead and I made an appointment for just to meet with the doctor and the transplant team and just to kind of do a walkthrough of the transplant floor. And then I get home and I get a phone call that says Tennessee Medicaid is not going to pay for this. So that's why I chose Ohio, because it's the best chance of survival for my daughter. Of course, she's going to go to the best hospital. Why wouldn't she? So I had to fight with Medicaid and appeal as many appeals as I could do. And plus, you know, we were on, the clock was ticking. The damage was being done to Crowley's body at that time, and her brain mostly. Because without the IDUA enzyme she was born missing, I mean, the toxins are building up in her body. It attacks her brain, her eyes, her ears, her heart. She was also born with heart failure. So she had started the ERT, enzyme replacement therapy. That's an infusion over like 7 hours. It's a 7-hour infusion with that one enzyme that she's missing. However, it didn't go to her brain. It wouldn't help her brain. So in order to save her brain, we needed that transplant. So here I am, a single mom. I have to go back to work the day after her diagnosis. She was 3 weeks old when I got the official diagnosis, and I was working 12-hour shifts as a medical receptionist. I was taking her for her first surgery at 28 days old for her central line placement. And then 30 days old, we started her ERT, and then we started the process of getting in touch with Cincinnati Children's. Then I realized Tennessee Medicaid wanted to fight me, so I went and I did interview both transplant doctors in Nashville, Dr. Fringle at Tricentennial Children's and Dr. Conley at Vanderbilt. And they were very kind enough to sit with me, and they did walk me through their transplant ward. However, Dr. Conley had only transplanted 2, I believe, at the time. And only one survived.
MPS1 patients.
MPS1 patients, and only one had survived. Dr. Fringle had not transplanted any. And they were under the impression that a bone marrow transplant is a bone marrow transplant, regardless of whatever disease you have. And when they said that to me, I knew immediately, oh my gosh, she cannot transplant here, because that could not be further from the truth. Everything in her body is absolutely affected in a terrible way from her disease. And a bone marrow transplant alone will automatically put you in kidney and liver failure. And I mean, you've got to make sure that these organs are even able to withstand it. So they had no knowledge of it. They just did not understand the importance of transplanting a child with MPS1. I was terrified. So I knew I had no choice but to literally pack up my old car, and I think I had $160 cash. And I just went to Ohio. I had left my stuff to be put in storage for my brothers for my apartment. Um, I went there homeless and was able to obtain Medicaid in Ohio just to get my daughter transplanted. And then when that failed over the course of a year and a half, I had no choice but to repeat and do the same thing. So it's just
So her daughter's transplant failed. That's what she means when she says repeat and do the same thing. So Mandy claimed homeless, got to Cincinnati, got Medicaid, had a bone marrow transplant for her daughter in Cincinnati. They moved home from transplant. How long were you in the hospital during the first transplant?
oh geez. I remember I was so traumatized I didn't want to leave because I went through all 7 surgeries and I don't think we had 7 surgeries by that point, but I went through every surgery and her entire transplant alone, completely alone. I think family visited 2 or 3 times, but it was brief for like maybe an hour or 2. And it was just me. And I didn't realize how it had affected me until it was about release time. And I begged the doctor to leave me, Dr. Davies, to let me stay because I had to keep up with her medications. And I just didn't know if I could or not because it was on a time you had to give the anti-rejection meds like timely. You remember the cyclosporin, and you couldn't be a minute late. And I just didn't know if I was capable. So I think we actually stayed in the hospital for several months. And, I mean, she did phenomenal, but during both transplants. But I was a little off.
I don't think you're alone with that. That was kind of one of our biggest fears. Like you want to be out, you want to discharge, but that's your safe place. And you're with the doctors. You know, if there's an emergency, you're right there. So I don't think you're alone in that at all. I can't imagine being there alone. I was lucky that I had Ryan, with me through most kidney and linkage transplants. I've always just been kind of like in awe of your story and what you've done to fight for Charlie. I try to tell your story. I don't give it justice a lot just because it is rare on top of rare and a true mama bear, mama instincts to fight for her child. So it really is amazing. And I remember meeting you in the little red Honda, and I think you still have it. It has over 300,000 miles on it.
Yoda.
It got you there. So it really is crazy. People can't imagine, even hearing this, are not going to be able to imagine or comprehend everything you've done. So at this point, you've been through a bone marrow transplant. Your daughter's had chemo. She got her cord blood. You're on your way to whatever the honeymoon phase is for Hurler. You move back to Tennessee, and then what?
Oh gosh, the honeymoon phase was, after the second transplant, I remember being very, very angry. I just had this anger in me I could not explain because I had done everything that could be done. And that was just so hard to accept. I think everything distracted me for so long, like just fighting for her second transplant. And I had this fire in me and this hope and just constantly praying and just saying, God, if you let me keep Charlie, I will never complain about anything. I give her to you. I will raise her in church. And I just felt so hopeful. And, as long as I can take my daughter home alive, because transplants are so deadly, I just thought I will take her home any way that I can and just please let me keep her here. And also the honeymoon period, I think it's also a form of denial for some of us parents. I don't really want to speak for everyone, but I think we wonder, is there a chance that maybe our kid will be the different one that doesn't have all the symptoms, and maybe this will be the first time, and you don't have to see your child suffer from pain or being tired or their legs and ankles hurting and their back hurting and not being able to run and keep up with the other kids. And you can't see the physical really difference. You can't really see that physical difference. It's not that makes you love your child any less. It's just that it definitely makes you more aware of, oh gosh, this is real. Here we go. And plus, we were all into the notion. We didn't have a whole lot of research pertaining to how the newborn screening kids would turn out being transplanted so early. I remember being told that, like, there's still hope. We don't know how our kids will be being transplanted so early. And, I mean, we're definitely out of that. Truly needs, we're out of that honeymoon. Truly needs her hips replaced, her knees replaced, her ankles are going in.
Before you get too far, though, you moved home, but you had to move back. So we've not talked about that. So you moved home from the first transplant.
Okay, yeah.
And then take me from there. Kind of after you moved home from the first transplant, what happened?
Okay, so we came home from the first transplant. We lived in a bubble. This is before COVID, before anybody understood what a bubble was. Only transplant
We knew.
Bubble, yes. And people thought we were crazy about germs. And shortly after that, the world would find out germs are real and you can't see them. So we lived in a bubble, and monthly I would drive to Knoxville and do her transplant lab. That's about an hour and a half away. And every month my heart would get heavy because her engraftment would go down at a 2 to 4% rate. And we really hoped and believed that it would level out at some point. And so once I finally fought and got her second transplant approved, I did the same thing. I went back to Ohio homeless, and we went into the hospital room and made it home, got her transplant started. It was definitely harder on me mentally the second time around. I knew the chances of her surviving were eating less. So, coming out of that one was really tough. We stayed, I think the first transplant, we were there 8 or 9 months. I stayed as long as I could, because when we leave from Ohio and come home, we don't have any insurance for Ohio. We come home to Tennessee and we see these doctors that don't know Charlie from anybody. Like, they don't know her. They don't know about her disease. And even her oncologist that we really love to death, I mean, she's such a good doctor. She's still 5 years in and couldn't tell you anything about MPS. And she's had 5 years to learn something, even though all she's doing is the labs for Charlie. I mean, good grief. You know, they're promoting and want their kids to transplant at Vanderbilt so bad, and they're pushing it to be a center of excellence. And NORD has Vanderbilt listed as a center of excellence for rare diseases, and that's not even true. And it's because it's listed as that Tennessee Medicaid will not transplant outside of the state of Tennessee. It's a lie. It is not a center of excellence. It's not.
Yes, it could be for a certain rare diseases, maybe, but not in
one. Yeah, so that's very discouraging. So yeah, I always try to stay as long as I could, because you can always expect some type of complication after transplant. And I mean, you know, you're not out of that window for several years, you know.
So for the second transplant, approximately how old is she during the second transplant?
She turned 2. She turned 2 during her second transplant. I remember singing her happy birthday, and she had just started chemo, and she was terrified. It was a sad little thing, but we always made the best of it, tried to make it exciting for her.
You have done so good at that.
Thank you. Like, that means a lot.
So, second bone marrow transplant, get done with that. You went back home to Tennessee. So kind of what happened? What does life look like after the second bone marrow transplant? Is it still COVID during that point, or?
It is COVID. It is.
Is it?
I remember that they were they were considering vaccinations at that point. It was that early in COVID, I believe. Or maybe, I don't. Now, see, I lost a whole lot of memory, and I've asked so many people, so many of our moms, they lost memory. I lost it. It never came back. I think even at that point, there were a couple of months, I think I even went into like some type of psychosis. But of course, I didn't reach out for help because I'm a single parent on Medicaid. You can't be crazy and be a single parent, no matter how scary it is. I mean, they will come and get your rare disease baby that cannot be around germs. So I just wrote it out with her. I mean, poor Shirley. I mean,
it's not funny at all.
We're proud of you.
What do you do?
And we were probably both drooling and coloring for months, like just coloring it. I mean, probably that was what.
Oh gosh.
I just don't remember a whole lot. I went to work eventually, and we just enjoyed life until recently. The honeymoon period ended, and she lives in pain daily. So, I mean, it was just, I can't, honestly, I remember telling my mom so many times, like, I'll look at her and it's almost like I feel like it's Christmas Day. Like, she's here, she's alive. So it's always been an excitement for me, and everything that she does. I remember the first time she said dookie. I mean, that's such a terrible word. And I was like, yes, baby, yes. I was so happy she said that. That was so silly, but she's so smart. She has just surpassed every expectation I've had of her. She's just witty, and she's sarcastic, and she runs me.
Wonder where she gets that from.
No, I really think that she keeps me in shape, like, and on top of things. She's really funny. She'll open her folder and say, Mom, you didn't sign my folder for school. So she's just amazing. Just a lot of more.
You touched on it a little bit. We all know there's a lot of misconceptions with MPS1, especially when, maybe we post on social media and people see you've had the treatment, you've been through transplant. What are you still fighting for? So what are some of the misconceptions or the challenges that you still face? Here you are. She's 5 years old now. She started kindergarten. Right now, we're currently in 2024. So what are some misconceptions and challenges that you think people have?
I'm so tired of hearing she looks so good. She looks like nothing's wrong. And you know what? I believe in God, and I know God can heal her. And I believe in God too. He can do anything. Absolutely, he can. But he has not healed your children, and he may never. That's a whole different podcast right there on that. But this is for the rest of her life. And once the surgeries start, the orthopedic surgeries, they're always going to be on repeat. I mean, we have kids that are 23 that have had 3 hip replacements. I mean, it's because once you replace the knees or the hips, that gag, that garbage in her body is going to keep attacking, like literally eating the plastic. And we got to replace it. I mean, this is no joke. And in their eyes, I mean, she'll have a corneal transplant, and by the time she hits her teens, there's hearing loss, so there's hearing aids, the orthopedic issues. Like right now in Shirley, there's a hill at her school where she has to walk down the hill to get to the playground. And I remember her telling me, and that was really hard. She said, Mama, it hurts so bad to walk up that hill from recess. I need help. I can't walk up that hill, Mama. So I had to ask the teachers to hold her hand and walk her up the hill. And there was one day that I picked her up from school, and I could tell when you can see the kids running towards the parent from the school line, and they come between the cars. All the cars are parked. And you can see when Charlie runs, she can't keep up, and her knees are going in. They're not me. So she looks totally different from the other kids. And she said, Mom, my ankles hurt real bad today. Miss Malik didn't hold my hand coming up the hill today. So I asked her teacher, could we remember to help Charlie up the hill the next day? And she said, oh, I offered. Absolutely, I would never forget. But Charlie wanted to walk up the hill with her friends. So it's like Charlie wants to walk up with her friends, but then she has to let that go and let her teacher walk her up and hold her hand. It's just, golly, come on, she's 5. I mean, and this is just the beginning. I don't know. I know that you have talked to Kennedy about her disease. She's aware, isn't she?
She is.
Okay, Charlie's not.
But Kennedy, at this point, she's had, 2 major surgeries. So that kind of brings it about.
Yeah.
she's had her spine fused and at 7, and she had the double hip, double knee, double ankle surgery at 9. And just as she's gotten older too, and matured in her own age, she can see, the difference is she actually just sat in her last IEP meeting with us and advocated for herself. It comes with age. And then, we've been loud and proud, if you will, trying to raise awareness to find a cure. So she's always kind of been in the center of that and heard us talk about it many, many times. But as she's gotten older, it's obvious to her that she has different abilities. So, yeah.
And I don't even want, I'm going to kind of tiptoe around this for a second, because you and I have not been to this yet, even though Kennedy knows. I'm just starting to tell Charlie at night, because we'll say our prayers together, and we still sleep literally no no's. And that is my baby, I'm telling you. But I tell her that God made her special. I said, that's why your ankles hurt and your knees hurt real bad, and your hands and your arms. We're getting to the carpal tunnel phase. Her arms and her hands hurt. And I said, that's why God made you so special, because you're so brave and you're strong, and you get to teach the other kids that they can do anything. So she's starting to see, and I've told her the reason your hands hurt is because God made you special. So we're right there where that door is creeping open. But I remember seeing and I even want to be sensitive to you mentioning this. So I'll tiptoe around it. I remember seeing a post from one of the MPS moms a couple years ago, and we all had those sleepless nights. And it was a mom whose child is a little bit older teenager, and she posted that her child came home from school asking about the real reality of MPS and what that means when she's older. Not having kids, not getting married, not driving a car. Like, I'll even stop there. Like, we're not even there yet. Like, dear God, like, people don't even realize this is not our kids. I believe that another mom did comment on it. I did spend way too much time on that post. And then I spent several months, and I'll shamefully admit, I spent a long time not reading the group after that. I just couldn't do it. Because when you're in the honeymoon phase, let's just be in it while we can. I wanted to be selfish for that time, to be honest, after reading that for sure. But her child had to go on, another child, they did have to put into therapy right away and on antidepressants. It was just such a shock for them to even learn what this means going forward. And holy moly. So yeah, I don't think people realize when they say your child looks great, it is progressive. Like, what do you not understand? Like, we're never going to get to rest. We are always going to fight. It is always going to be a fight. We just lost one of ours the other day. It was 28 years old. I mean, people just don't, they just don't get it. And I'm so glad they don't have to experience what we experience, but please hear me. Why would I lie about my own kid? Just help us. Please help us spread this. God's not, I don't know why he's not. I don't know why he's not going to heal our kids right away. He could, yes, and he might, absolutely. But I believe he's going to help us find a cure. But through that, it's going to be with you helping us spread awareness. Just hear what I say. Thank you for your prayers, and please pass this along. Please tell one person today about Charlie and about Kennedy and about Lincoln and our other kids. Please just tell one other person.
You're
video. That's how you can help us, please. Because it's never going to end. There's always going to be another surgery. There's always going to be another problem. It's going to be a heart. It's going to be your eyes. It's going to be your ears. It's going to be orthopedic wise. It's going to be their brains eventually being affected, Slowly.
I'm going to say statistics say, and one of my prayers has always been, God make Kenny and Lincoln the exception and rid their bodies of all MPS1 side effects and allow them to live long and happy, pain-free lives. And I struggled with God can, and he absolutely can. But I also have realized that, like you said, he may not on this side of heaven. And we have to use our platform to, maybe we've saved one person, maybe we've saved 100 people because of what's happened to us. And, our story is somebody else's prayer. Our story is somebody else's answer. And that's it for everybody. I mean, you never know what you're going to say that's going to change somebody's life. You never know what you're going to say that's going to pick that other person up off the ground. So we may never know the reason, yes, but faith has been a huge part of our story, and hearing our kids say their prayers and, just having that peace is one of the good things that we've definitely done in this journey. And telling them, like you said, you're brave and you're here to show other people. And just yesterday we were at a fall festival and this gentleman didn't have his legs and he had prosthetics, and then he had, his shoes on his feet. And I heard him telling some other kids, oh, it's like a robot. I could take my legs off at night and my feet come off. When he walked by us, he said, I feel sorry for that man. I said, why do you feel sorry for him? Look at him. He's down here. He's walking. He doesn't feel sorry for himself. And so we really tried to start showing Kenny those things. I'll have to post in the show notes when I find it. There was a book from a girl, I think she lives in Kentucky, and she's in a wheelchair. And it was a very inspiring book. And it was just a short, it may not even been a book, but a devotional. We read that. And then most recently, she got gifted a book. I want to say Most 50 Amazing Kids Who Can. I'm not sure what the name is. I'm butchering it, but I'll put that in the show notes too. And so we just love to read like encouraging stories every night, even if it's not different abilities, but just these extraordinary stories that people have done or what they've invented or what they, been through and overcame. And it's just really amazing. Like so much of it is mindset and just doing it. Like you said, like it seems like something you can't overcome, but you packed your bags and you did it. Like,
oh yeah.
That to me, I say, I use your story all the time. That is the craziest thing. I mean, I just can't imagine, like, I got $160. I got 300,000 miles on my car. I have no insurance. I'm going to drive to another state. I'm going to claim homeless and I am going to get my baby what she needs. Like, that is amazing. That's so amazing.
We've done it too, though.
And you did it twice.
There was no time. And it's crazy to think, though, and thank you so much for that. But I promise, like any parent would do it, like when you're faced with it. And the thing is when you're looking at your baby and there is this one treatment that will prolong her life and it will make her life bearable, because for our kids to not receive a transplant is absolutely unspeakably painful and harsh for them. What they go through, their little bodies go through, holy moly. So when there is this opportunity to prolong her life and to make her life easier, and she can actually experience things and live this life, of course she's going to get it. What? You're not telling me no. She has a baby, an innocent child. It's right here. It's available. But you're telling me this tape of insurance and no, I don't. No, I don't want to hear it. We can save her, and that's exactly what we're going to do. I mean, I can't believe that people are actually faced with not receiving the treatment that they need just because of insurance or where they live or what they don't have. That blows my mind. And I encourage every parent out there that is faced with that to say, no, not my child, not today.
So here you are in it again. And Charlie they're saying she's due for what surgeries? And you are living in Tennessee and you do still have Medicaid. So what is your current thought? What is your current worries? If you could wave your magic wand, what do you need?
I need for our representatives in the state of Tennessee to accept bills that would allow Charlie with Medicaid to still be seen for treatment because of her rare disease outside of the state of Tennessee. And our southern conservative states, our brother and sister states like Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee have not accepted that. So we're still limited to inside the state of Tennessee because they still say, well, she needs this orthopedic surgery. Well, that exact surgery is available here in Tennessee. Now we're going to pay for it for you, for which I'm very grateful for. Trust me. But these doctors don't know about her disease. We've had several moms comment on a post that I put in our mom group on Facebook concerning surgery at Vanderbilt. And one mom, her daughter was like 3 years old, 3 or 4. They reconstructed her hips, and they literally collapsed after having surgery at Vanderbilt. A little 3 or 4 year old. Are you kidding me? And by the way, that is deadly. It can start up infection and everything in your body. I mean, and how can a 3 or 4 year old even explain what they're feeling? So, holy moly, like they can't. They think that they can still offer that same surgery. No, it's different. Our kids have, all that garbage on their joints, and it is so terrible. So here we are. I have had to accept at least she did receive transplant at one of the main hospitals of the 3 centers of excellence for MPS1, and she did survive those. So orthopedic surgeries going forward, I do have to look at it in a sense of at least she's received her transplant that was so deadly. I mean, the orthopedics we can get through if we have to. And that's such a sad thing.
So again, I guess just to put into perspective too, and maybe you have a different explanation, but kind of going back to transplant, you're looking at, so with MPS1 Hurler, you're talking 1 in 100,000. You're talking approximately, my understanding is 1,100 kids living right now in the world. So you go to somewhere in Tennessee and they have done this orthopedic surgery on 2 MPS1 patients. You go to Cincinnati and they have done this same surgery on 100 MPS1 patients. You go to Minnesota, they've done 200 MPS1 patients. And when we talk about an orthopedic surgery, it's not always just that, I don't know the right word, just that site, if you will, because everything is affected. It could lead to a heart issue or a lung issue or an airway issue that these doctors have not experienced because of the complications of MPS1, where a center, what we will call a center of excellence, has seen, has experienced, and they are on call and ready. And that's the success rate is higher, the complications are lower, a whole lot of different things. So when we talk about orthopedic surgeries, I don't know what all's coming up for Charlie, but like I said, for Kennedy, she had gibbous, is the lump on their back, if you will, that a lot of these kids have. And if you think about scoliosis being side to side, the gibbous or the kyphosis is front to back. So I don't know if Charlie has a gibbous, but Kennedy's was 80 degrees. So she had 2 rods and 13 screws placed in her back when she was 7. And then we got through that, and you talk about their hips. I heard you mention Charlie's knees. Yeah. And so that's when Kennedy, in one surgery, she had double hip, double knee, double ankle surgery. And I heard you talk about Charlie's ankles too. So it really is not just a knee replacement or a hip replacement or, I feel like what you say that people are like, you can go here. They do it every day. And it really just, it's different for us. We've seen the stats. We've seen, the numbers and how important it is to go to someone that's experienced in MPS1. So
yeah, we what was it, 2 years ago, we lost Natalia to, what was it, back surgery? And it was I believe it was a local hospital, and there was an accident during surgery, but they just couldn't explain how she had paralyzed from her back surgery. That our kids, it's routine for our children, and
and being experienced in neuromonitoring, that is one thing we've learned with surgeries that's very important for MPS1 patients, is to have neuromonitoring and just constant monitoring of their blood pressure. And I know many times, even since the neuromonitoring has been in place, I know multiple patients that they have just had to stop mid-surgery because they can't, even with positioning and increasing their blood pressure, they cannot keep going with the surgery. And they've been told that through the neuromonitoring. So for anybody that's listening, neuromonitoring is a huge thing that we advocate for. It's a huge thing that a lot of hospitals have taken in as protocol. There's tons of literature on it. So if you're going to a hospital, ask about neuromonitoring for any surgery over 60 minutes and make sure you get that. There's definitely literature to back that up.
Yeah, Charlie was recommended to have tubes in her ears, and I held out and held out. Thank God I did, because her ears did get so much better. And I remember she would need the surgery and not so. And I had mentioned the neuromonitoring, and I didn't even realize that it was just if it was 60 minutes or more. Like, I just didn't. And I knew it was important. And I remember he told me, he said, okay, well, gather up the information I need on the why she needs neuromonitoring for her disease and give it to me. I never went back. I never went back. I'm not doing your homework. What? No. Yeah, and this is really the way the doctors look at it. And the doctors that have taken the time to learn about it, they don't get paid extra. They're not. They have taken their time to learn about our children, to give them more hope and a better chance. And it's limited, like Medicaid patients, it's limited, for our kids to see them. And it's just really a sad thing because, so Charlie does need her hips and knees and ankles. Her scoliosis, I know we went last year to have her orthopedic, just to have new measurements done. And Dr. He was her orthopedic at Mantis, starts with an M. The one at Vanderbilt, he didn't even do an x-ray of her scoliosis. Didn't even do an x-ray of her back at all. He came in there. I mean, he was in such a hurry. I haven't called or even, he said he wanted to do surgery, and I just thought, please, dear God, don't let it be here. Do not let it be here. I'm just looking for possible grants through NORD to get her her surgery in Cincinnati. However, I think with her being on Medicaid, there's just they're not allowed to do that. So it's just crazy. I'm hoping that one of the LDS moms just recently told me that one of the that there is a special program through Medicare for our kids. I know that it's available to newborn babies that are on dialysis. So I thought, surely to goodness, they have something for our kids. So I still haven't learned about that, but I know that Cincinnati does have a Medicare waiver. So that would mean that we could go there. I don't know. There's still so much to do and learn.
There is. Learning every day, lots to figure out. That's also, it's frustrating. People are like, it's just another piece of paper. Can you just do this or whatever? And it's like, I fought with insurance today. I fought with the school today. I fought with the doctor today. My work needed me. My kids needed me. It's hard being mom already. It's hard being a single mom. And it's hard to be a medical needs mom. I mean, you are 100% always a caretaker. And it is hard. It's hard, and it's hard to meet your needs. You let yourself, give Charlie's needs over yours. And I think that's most of the time the case. And so that makes it even harder because you can't show up 100% because you're tired and you're ragged and you've not had a break. You talked about support a little bit in the hospital. What does support look like for you now or since you've been home? Is it different that you're in Tennessee? Do you have a good support system, or you feel isolated, or?
Oh, no. Oh, boy. So being supported in the hospital, like on both of our journeys, it was absolutely a God thing. He opened so many doors and windows. There were so many people just sending toys and pajamas to Charlie. I mean, and they helped us to be able to keep our home and to pay the rent while we were gone. It was the most humbling. It was absolutely God using his soldiers all the way. I mean, it is amazing. Absolutely amazing. He led us to Cincinnati, and he used all of his people, all of his children to help us to maintain and to have a home to come back to. It was absolutely amazing. So we're home, and we're like 5 years in. It is kind of time to be out of that window of any type of need. And I mean, things happen in life, and I'm still a single parent, and my whole life's about Charlie. I want my life to be about her. So I'm just dedicated to that. And, things happen. People lose jobs. I just recently lost my job unexpectedly with a couple of $1,000 owed to me. So it's just hard to dig out of that. Still on Tennessee Medicaid. I remember thinking I would be so much further by now, and the reality is that I am a single special needs mom, and I've learned that money is definitely a resource. You know what I mean? Like, I think it would get us so much further with Charlie and her needs met. And it makes me sad as a to not be able to provide that and just try to keep it together. Plus, we're in a recession right now. I mean, everybody's struggling. I think it's hard to lose stuff, to lose the things that you have when you have so less, But but Charlie has aunts and uncles and her Mimi right down the road and her papa, and she's just so lovable. She's just so loved. And so, but I'm still single as far as like the only parent and the only income provider. But yeah, Charlie's life is definitely full of a lot of love and attention.
That's special.
Yeah.
That's important.
She's easy to love.
I feel like all the MPS1 kids are really. I feel like I hear that all the time. Like there's just something different about their personalities and, their resilience. And, I guess, they live in pain every day and all the surgeries they've been through, yet the majority, are still smiling. They're still happy, excited about what's coming next. You mentioned a little bit about the girl that, needed some therapy, and we have seen some of that with Kendi. We didn't see it until really the second surgery, but just kind of the anxiety and the things that she's had to go through and see and experience, and the heart that she has for other people, I think contributes to that too. Her anxiety, because she wants everybody else to be okay. So it really is something different with these kids. They're like kids in old people's bodies.
They really are. And that's exactly how I've described Charlie. I remember she was an old lady, like her second Halloween. It was just so cute. But and her hair was like really short because it was after one of her transplants. Yeah. And so I like did the hairspray paint like gray or something. I think I tried with that. But okay, so this might be a little what is the word? Brash? What? I don't know. Okay, anyway, I think I just made up my own vocabulary. But this is what I think. I think people don't you remember growing up, and I don't want this to step on anything, and I want to be very careful how I say this. You remember growing up and seeing the special needs class when we were in school, and they would go into like maybe passing or the cafeteria, and it would be a different classroom that was in the school that you didn't even know about, and they would be in their wheelchairs, and some of them would be just just very special, very, precious and very special. And I never knew that life. I was never around it. And so I was never educated on it. And I just remember having a heart and being like, oh, how sweet. And oh, my heavens, and I think that the people that we're reaching out to now that are watching this podcast, I think that they know what I'm saying, that they saw those kids too. And they're like, oh, that's what your kids are. I don't think they, and even the, even the representatives, like in the, with insurance, I think that when they look up the disease, the MPS1, I'm so stumbling over myself here. When they look up this disease, they see our kids as, let's see, not able to run, laugh, play, have a personality. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Because when you read about it and you Google MPS1, you're gonna say, "Oh my heavens, oh my heavens," and it is a very sad thing. But I don't think that people know that our kids can continue. They do have that quality. They have that bright spirit in them. They have laughter. They run. They laugh. They play. They're sarcastic. They're witty. They have a big heart. They love on their baby dolls. They love on animals. They're smart. They know their colors. They know they're these little people and know people's bodies, and they have this big heart, and they know things. So very well. They're even more aware than me. You know what I mean? Like they're smarter than me at this point. I'm 41, and I don't even know anything anymore. So I don't think people realize that our kids, even though what you read about, it's so terrible. No, listen to me. Our kids are so alive. They are so alive. Please look at my baby. Please listen to my baby. Listen to me. Please share this podcast. Please don't this is considered an orphan disease. Everything you read on Google is outdated. That's our kids that didn't receive any treatment. Please help us to keep moving forward, because the more opportunity we give our kids with the centers of excellence, the doctors that know what they're doing, that can keep them alive during a surgery, that know how to keep them alive during a surgery, or when to stop when it's getting dangerous. They understand how to treat our children. They give them hope and a better chance of a future. Any healthy 5-year-old out here that you would donate money to because they have cancer and they're sick, will do it for Charlie, because she's just as smart. She's just as cute. She's just as funny. She can live too. She can do this. She can still go to college. She can still do these things. Help me get her there. She's there. She's walking into it. Let's keep her that way, because she's born perfect. Our kids are just beautiful, perfect little babies, just like yours. It's just this disease is progressive. Help me to keep her good, to keep her alive, to keep her brain good. Please help me. Time is of the essence. She gets worse as she gets older. So she's more than worthy. Not saying that any special needs child is not worthy. They're absolutely all worthy. But I'm telling you, she's hilarious. She's funny. I think they need to see more of our kids.
Yeah. That's what we're hoping to do.
Do you remember this, the Steve Harvey show where you ask the kids funny things? And the kids are hilarious. I mean, come on.
Yes.
To do that with our kids.
I do love that.
Look how alive, and maybe the videos of them doing the funniest things, maybe a whole video of them doing the sweetest things, and then the funniest things, and the sarcastic, and just show just how alive our kids are. They don't have a foot in the grave. I'm telling you. Just help us keep them alive.
Shout out Steve Harvey. If you're hearing this, we would love a show for MPS1 kiddos.
Oh, God. He's somebody big enough to really help. Please find it in your heart.
Or I'll go on Family Feud. I'd love to do that too.
Yeah, I've even talked about TLC having a show. The Hurler moms. I mean,
oh gosh,
why wouldn't they?
Yeah. No, it's
the life and rare disease. It's not all tears and hard times.
You have to laugh about it, and that's what I love about you. Again, I'm kind of a dry sense of humor a lot of times, and I'm not very quick-witted, and I don't always know what to say. I'm kind of like, I need time to process. But you're just like, I'm either like, oh, wow. Or I'm like, yes, that is great.
Yeah, I think it helps growing up really poor. And just, you know what I mean? And just be, anything's kind of a good thing. But, I think this is a wonderful thing, just sharing and just trying to get people to realize, Google is not going to tell what Charlie is. Charlie is something else. She is a card, and She deserves this life more than anybody. She's so precious. She's so close to God. I mean, and Kennedy and Lincoln, I mean, come on. They're just the best little kids with the biggest hearts. They're tough as nails. I mean, they're so smart. I mean, we can do this, but we need people. We need people to understand that you know they're more than worthy. We're not trying to do the impossible. This is not the impossible. Everything that we're asking for is completely possible. Everything that we're asking for is more than possible.
I believe it. And that's one of the reasons why you're on here. So we launched the Cure MPS1 project, and our dream and our goal, and we know it's going to happen, is sharing MPS1 stories and using the 6 degrees of separation to raise awareness and find a cure for MPS1. Everybody knows somebody. Mandy, you talked about sharing, and we believe the same. We say every prayer, every share, every penny counts. Every time you share, I think people get so tired. Share this, share that, but it truly can change a life. And, you know, we ask for donations, but if you can't donate, if you can share, when you share the $1 you couldn't donate, somebody will donate 20. I promise. Every share is just as important as every dollar. And really, just like you said, the information on the internet is not always up to date. A lot of it is extremely old, and we're always learning. And so that's another thing about sharing the stories. I'm sure there's something that another mom has heard in this podcast that made her not feel alone or encouraged her to take the next step to make sure she gets to the center of excellence, or maybe it just gave her a good laugh. But there's something that in this story that changed somebody's life. And I think that's hard. It was hard for me, like telling my story. What do you want to hear? Everybody kept saying, just tell your story. I'm like, for what? But there's just something somewhere where people can make a connection. And like I said, your story is somebody's prayer. So I can't thank you enough. I do want to ask you, and this might put you on the spot, you may not have any, but you know, people are always asking, what do I pack in my bag to take to the hospital? Or maybe you were in the hospital and the doctor or the nurse showed you some kind of swaddle and you're like, I didn't even know this 3 weeks ago when we were trying to do that dressing change. So what are maybe 3 to 5, either it's a tip or it's an item that you were like, man, I wish I would have known about this months ago, or man, this saved my life in the hospital, or, you know, maybe right now it's just a tumbler that you have. I don't know. What are a few things, do you have any that are like, you need this?
Yeah, so I do know you need to take a pair of tennis shoes. And if you are going to get slippers, make sure they're orthopedic. Now, I am what you call a geriatric mom. So those hospital floors killed my feet. So you got to have them tennis shoes and chapstick lotion. I mean, you're getting, what is it called? The double filtered air. You're going to dry up. Your skin's going to crack. You need Carmex and you need a baking lotion, like no joke. Or Vaseline lotion, nothing from Bath and Body Works or nothing. It doesn't have to smell good. You need the real deal. But I'm going to tell you, an Echo Show, they even have the small ones. They're like 5 inches or even like $40-$50 and even cheaper than that on like Black Friday. And they're awesome because you can hook an app up to your phone, the Alexa app. And if you walk out of your room at any time, you can do a drop in and you can see your baby right from that camera. Because you want to always be aware. Because I know, like, even when they wanted to drop a tube in Charlie, a feeding tube, I was like, you're not dropping no feeding tube in her. It's not time. They wanted to hurry up and do it. And I fought it both transplants. And sure enough, she never did need a feeding tube. But and so maybe that's not the best advice, but I have stood by it. I've sworn it. She's like the only one I've ever seen that didn't get a feeding tube. So I was just feeding her because she's a big girl like her mama. She's going to eat. She's gonna. I left one time and I went to the parent lounge just to eat because the nurses were like, well, we'll be in here. And holy moly, if they didn't drop a tube in her, I come back. I said, what is this? I was so mad. So, so anyway, it's important to always know when they're in there anyway, what are we doing? What are we giving? What are you doing? And just stay on top of it. And it'll help you mentally to stay sharp too. So having that little Amazon Alexa, or no, it's the Echo Show. Now they have the big fancy ones. If you have rich family, they'll buy you one. So they have that. That's a good one to always have so that you can always be there and you can speak back and forth on it. You can say, hey, mom here on the camera, on the table. I just stepped out in the parent. Just wait just 1 second and I'll be right in there. Okay. So you can speak back and forth. It's amazing. Now the second thing, Charlie was a baby during her first one and I wanted nothing but to give my baby a good old bath. And, with that, central line, you can't just go dip them in the bathtub. Well, I'll tell you what I did. I gave her a good sponge bath with like the bucket with really warm soapy water. They could bring you the baby soap and with a really soft washcloth that you provide yourself with a baby one. Yeah, because it's not a baby hospital that will exfoliate your child. It right there in the bed. You got to change your bedding every day. Right there in the bed, get a good, soapy, really wet sponge bath. I mean, just soapy and wet. Get water everywhere. Let it soak the whole bed. And then you just take you get your baby warm and dry and dressed. And you take all the bedding off and just soak up all that water with all that bedding, blanket, sheet, everything. And then wipe the mattress down and replace it. They get the best little hot soapy bath. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, she slept like a baby every night. And I don't know, I guess it's a Southern mama thing, just to wash that baby every day, but I did. That just was, come here, you got to get washed, and then a big old hair bow. So I've always thought that was awesome, and I just did it to her while she was in the hospital this past week, too. I was like, we can do that same sponge bath in the bed.
And just creating that routine and that bond.
Yeah.
I mean, things get hard in the hospital and you get tired and you don't want that. So yeah. That's special.
Yeah, because babies need that. That is so true. They need that bedtime routine. And I remember my mama telling me, there ain't nobody in the world that needs to be out after dark. And I remember thinking, I remember taking it so serious. And the first time Charlie had ever been out after dark, she was well over a year old. And she's screaming the whole time in the park as it was dark. She'd go, dark, dark, dark. She'd never seen it. She'd never been outside in the dark. I thought I've been doing something right.
Well, we'll end it with this. What is one piece of advice you could give to somebody that's going through something hard? Maybe they're a newly diagnosed family. Maybe they're a seasoned family. Maybe there's somebody that's not a rare disease family. They're just somebody that's going through a hard time. And what's the best piece of advice you could give them?
Let me tell you something. We think that we are all conditioned to think that life is supposed to be a certain way, that we are supposed to be a certain way. Even if we want to go against those odds and have purple hair and 26 piercings in our face, even if that is still a certain way, we think life is just life. You enjoy it. You live to the fullest. You go to college. You buy a house. You have kids. You get married. Well, actually, there's no really certain way to live life. Sometimes that is not what life is. Sometimes life is the simple things, the beauty, and just the fact of having, just breathing in, and breathing out. Sometimes it really is just that simple, and it's just such a precious thing. For however long that we have it, it is so precious, and this is not a race. The only race that we should ever be in this life is to save these kids and to give them a longer life, because if anyone deserves it, it's these children. All children.
Well, thank you so much. I really can't thank you enough. I love any time I get to talk to another MPS1 mom, but I love any time that I get to catch up and chat with you.
Yeah,
you're my me laughing and you're real, and I'm so thankful for it. So I really can't thank you enough. You did just recently lose your job. So if there are any flexible remote positions that Mandy could do from home, even if it was part-time, something that would support her as a single mother and also a way for her to provide for Charlie. Sometimes those single moms and those hardworking moms are the best employees you could have. It just looks a little bit different, but they can get the work done. So reach out and we will connect you with Mandy and allow you to support her and Charlie's journey. We can't thank you enough. We want to remind everybody, if you want to share your MPS1 story, go to curemps1.org. If you want to follow Charlie's story, we'll post that link in the show notes below. Thank you so much, Mandy, for sharing your amazing and powerful story. We want to remind everybody that's listening that you are never alone in whatever journey you're going through. We want to thank you so much for joining us here today. Please subscribe to the Rising Up Rare podcast so that we can rise up together, bring hope, and inspire action. Thank you so much. Have an amazing day.